Welcome back, everybody. You know what? Today, a little bit of a different day, and I want to bring you in to my space. I want to bring you into my workspace. We know that I am retired, but we also know, and I've shared this a lot on a lot of videos. I've shared the fact that I've got a side hustle, and I do YouTubing, and there's no surprise, no shock. I do want to bring you into my office, my space. We have my computer here. I'm just getting set up. You know what? We're going to do a live stream, and you can see kind of behind the scenes as I sort of navigate and I answer questions. You may find some of it interesting. You may find some of it not so interesting, but that's okay. I just want to bring you into the world of how my live stream looks like from behind. And here, let me just kind of give you just a quick look around. I mean, since we're in the office anyway, we'll just show you. Obviously, I have the big Mac right here where I do a lot of my work. I also have a couple other computers that I do a lot of the work on. You know, I have lighting. Right here we have a printer cutter, so cutter plotter, so we can do like vinyl graphics. I was running a business doing that. Obviously, you know, I've got my neon sign and a wheel, of course, great wheel from a Porsche. And I have a whole host of, you know, lots of different ornaments and cars and things like that. I've got my helmet when I go for the racetrack, when I take it out on the track. I've been on the track numerous times, so I've got myself a helmet. And yeah, I mean, that's the long and short of it is, you know, there's some equipment back over there. You know, I've got some cameras and tripods and sliders and all of that good stuff. So this is kind of my workspace, if you will. And again, I've said this before, that I truly believe having a side hustle is great. I do consider myself retired because I was retired from the company, the corporate operation, if you will. I was retired from them. They carried me through. I'm formally retired. I am. I'm qualified now once I hit 55 to take pension, but I'll probably, do something. I'm still not totally, sure exactly where I'm going with that. But honestly, this is something that I do for funsies. I do it when I want it, how I want it. I don't have the boss. I don't have people barking orders. I just don't have the world of, corporate where you've got the tap on the shoulder, you get performance conversations, you've got backstabbing, you have all these things going on. I don't deal with that. I just deal with me, my space. To me, again, this is more of a hobby and a playtime, and it happens to bridge a little bit there for me. But I do want to bring you into the world. So let's look at this, and just, if you want to join in on the entire live stream, great. I'd love to hear your comments, down below. But I did wanted to show you and introduce you to my little workspace. I know there's a lot of you that are watching that are maybe coworkers, possibly friends, relatives, and lots of peers and people either from the business or or from that world of maybe social media, YouTube, and the like. I just want to kind of show that right now. I'm getting it set up. So when you do a live stream like this, you got to get all this kind of jazz set up, and you put in the basics. I got a title today. Actually, I'm going to call it the worst car technology ever. So I mean, since we're having fun with this, if you want to drop something down below, we'll see what people have to say. I also have I have another introduction to make. I have some new members on the channel, and I want to show you what I do and kind of how I go about it, because it's kind of fun. It's honestly kind of fun. So I'm going to put that off to the side there so I can read it, but I can still work in the same workspace. So let me just kind of click this up. Let's just get this moving because I want to get live here. We'll do a thumbnail later. You can set all that up later. So I'm just going to push this through. You just got to set up a few basic features, settings, pretty standard. I'm going to do a live chat, and we're going to do it to everybody. And let's just see here. We want to do push forward. And we're going to do this public, okay? So as of 4:40, it's 4:45 right now, but as of 4:40, I'm going to hit done. And join along, everybody, and just kind of see how this goes. Looks like I'm having some Wi-Fi issues. It's not really that quick to... Here we are. So now, I'm just going to put in the chat Good afternoon. Boom. We're going to do that. We're going to get the ball rolling. And yeah. So a little smiley emoji in there. And let's go live, shall we? Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining in, and thanks for joining the live stream again with Exotic Car Play Place. I really appreciate that. This is wonderful to have everybody here. So please do feel free to drop a line, drop a comment in the sidebar there if you have anything you want to ask. But today, I really want to dive into some of the technology, automotive technology that I find probably some of the worst things. I've done videos on this recently. I actually did a video on the channel, and it did fairly well. But it does, conjure up a lot of conversation about the worst car technology, with the modern age and the modern cars and the technology that's incorporated and blended in a lot of these vehicles. They're very complex. They're very costly to repair when things break. And so it's definitely worth talking about. There's technology that's worth having because it makes your life better, safer, more interesting. But there's technology that's just there. It's extra. It's taking up space and bandwidth. And quite honestly, it ends up costing in the long run for repairs. So let's just take this from the top. I do want to introduce, we have a new member. And so I want to talk about, before we really get into this, I do want to welcome the members, the most recent members on the channel who, when part of the membership, they sign up, it gives them first rights, first dibs. They're able to see some of the early video releases. They see them before most other people do. They can also, if you're part of the membership, I do prioritize your questions. I go in much more depth, more researched, and certainly we can get a lot more of those conversations. If you're looking for advice on the next best car, I'll definitely get you a lot more information, a lot more detail. And the membership really is a means just to support the channel, show that you're, again, supportive, you're enjoying kind of what I do and the content. And, it's just another way to just say thanks. So I do appreciate it. But as those comments come up and the sidebar and they're prioritized based on membership or, whatever else makes sense, then we just, we answer them as best I can. So today we're going to leave it fairly open forum because I do like the interactive back and forth conversations that we get into every week. But I want to leave this open for all of us, for us all to chat here. So Friday afternoon, it's 4:48, and I want to say welcome everybody again. Good afternoon. Private Salty Cracker says, I miss the old style gutters above windows that kept the rain out and the old window vent windows. It was good for flipping ashes off my cigarettes. 100%. I remember the rain gutters. I remember having the old school 911s, the air-cooled 911s. They had those rain gutters along the top. It was kind of, hang your fingers off of there. It was kind of a cool feature. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And having even those remember those butterfly windows that you flip them and then you kind of push them over and they sort of swivel open like a butterfly? They were pretty cool too. But before we get into the next question, I want to mention the latest members. We have Thomas Helm, been a long-standing member. Thomas, absolutely thanks again so much, Thomas. Hope to see you today. If not, again, I know this will be on repeat and you'll have opportunities to watch this video again later on. Thomas, again, thanks so much for being a long-standing supporter of the channel. TAT as well. Thanks again, TAT. Roy Henning, thanks, Roy, as well, for being an ongoing member of the channel. I really appreciate that, Roy. Joshua, Dr. J.K. Karp. Thanks, Dr. J.K. Karp and Joshua. I really appreciate the membership as well. And Mikey D. Mikey D, if there's anything you have, specific questions or otherwise, be sure to drop a line. I'll love to help you out as best I can. And Marcel Farrell. Thanks, Marcel. Really do appreciate it. I know I'd like to hear back as well once you sort of get, any issues with the car per se. Got to be curious how that goes for you as well. So thanks, Marcel. And the newest member is Scott Hunziker. Thanks, Scott Hunziker. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. I really hope I'm getting that right. I hope I'm not messing that up too bad. Please forgive me if I am. But thanks again, Scott, and welcome the rest of you and all of you online today. Really appreciate it. So, as we look on the comments here, let's just kind of get into this. I'm just going to X that out, kind of clarify this, make this a little easier. So, Laguna Leohart, hey Mark, have you ever driven a V6 supercharged F-Type? How does it sound or compare with your V8? Those of you who have known, I bought about 3 or 4 years ago a Jaguar F-Type R, which is the V8 supercharged 5-liter. So I had that. Bought that car 4 years ago, whatever. And so I always loved the sounds of those cars ever since I had a chance to drive one. I always loved the F-Type R. It brings all of that performance and punch that you want from a car that really is almost supercar performance. From the V6 supercharged F-Type, you know what? If I can be so bold, Laguna, the performance of the V8 definitely has that immediate, just that dig. It really does give you that extra thrust, especially with the all-wheel drive and that V8. It's amazing. For sounds, though, I actually think the V6 may sound better, especially when you're really whining it out. Now, I mean, with that said, a V8 that's idling and is chugging along is always very impressive. I love the sound of the V8, especially when you flick the switch and then it does the open valves. That absolutely sounds amazing. The V6, on the other hand, as you're revving it, I think it has a different tone, which almost sounds more aggressive as you're whining it out. So it kind of depends on how you're driving it, but they actually both sound quite amazing, actually. Old Red, have you watched Trailer Park Boys? Yeah, I used to watch it all the time as a Canadian, true Canadian, drinking the old Timmies and watching Trailer Park Boys. It was always a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It's politically incorrect by today's standards, I'm sure, by a long shot. I found it hilarious. Anybody, maybe to the other audience here as well, maybe Trailer Park Boys, any of you guys ever watch that show? That'd be great to hear from you too. But the Trailer Park Boys is a lot of fun. So yes, I always enjoyed watching that. Mike Rittman, Reborn. Werewolves are real and have been seen in the UK. Werewolves. I think we have some in Ottawa. Anyway. Yeah, great point. Deepak Murthy. Hello, Mark. Is Toyota reliability going downhill? Deepak. Yes, reliability has been, I wouldn't say gone totally downhill. I would say it's a little bit worrisome right now. I say what we've seen traditionally with Toyotas in the past is that they almost every time they reintroduce a whole new platform, they have a few stumbles. Remember the old 3-liter V6? They had problems there. They've also had oil burning in some of their engines a few, 10, 12 years ago. So it feels to me like every time they introduce a new platform, a new engine, they have problems. Now they're introducing much more technology. Hybrid, they're pretty good at. CVTs with the with their exclusively reliable CVT, or the eCVT with the planetary gear system, is much more durable than what we're seeing with the Nissan products. But yes, they're having that new 8-speed auto trouble. But they're going to get to the bottom of that. The 3.4-liter turbo V6, they're having lots of problems. But I have faith they're going to have that sorted too. Same with the GR Corolla. They're also having problems with that. So all indications show that Toyota's going through a real spell, aren't they? But I think a bigger piece that I have to throw in there to make sure I don't remove this out of context is that Toyota's doing a lot of new stuff all at once, right? And so quite often in the past, they'll make a change, they'll bring a new engine in, and that'll be kind of one of the only things they do for a while. Right now, there's such an evolution and revolution of technology in Toyota, and new drivetrains and all these other factors that they're creating these monsters, if you will. They're creating the environment, the perfect storm, if you will, for failures. And so they're doing so much at once that we're hearing about all these different failures. So I'd like to believe that Toyota isn't going down the toilet. I think Toyota, they're struggling right now a little bit. But what we've seen now, and I don't know if you've heard, but recently I've heard that they're going to likely retract their manufacturing process from the American soil, and they're likely going to bring it, especially for the Lexus electrified vehicles, so the hybrids, electric vehicles, things like that, in the Lexus brand, of course, being their upscale brand, are likely going to be moving that back to Japan. Now, you can kind of look at this in any number of ways, read between the lines, but the way I sort of see this is that there's sort of this attention to detail. They want to bring that quality control back to home base. And that's the way I see this. Now, I might be reading into this a bit more, but I truly believe that Toyota is trying to get reliability figured out again. And so, we know with all the things that have been going on, there's a lot of great manufacturing that goes on in Canada and the United States. But everybody would argue, especially even look at Mercedes, Alabama, and some of their manufactured vehicles in the US soil were arguably far less reliable than a lot of their vehicles were, the German versions that were made in Germany. So there's all kinds of argument for that. And Lexus is likely going to be moving some of their electrified vehicles in a few years back to Japan instead of US soil. So I would expect to see some improvements there as well, or we hope to. So hopefully we're seeing reliability come back to Toyota, because you're right, they have had some struggles. I wouldn't count them out just yet. Let me see here. MD Hair. My Jaguar E-Pace just died. Oh no, MD Hair. My Jag E-Pace just died. Which engine did you have? That's very unfortunate. Sorry to hear about that. I know there were some troubles with the diesels and the timing chains, and they had a lot of issues with those timing chain problems. Lots of challenges. And by the way, for everybody watching here today, you probably, some of you know, some of you probably don't know, I've actually introduced, and I've got it live streaming right now, or I've actually creating a video right over here, right over there. I'm recording. And for those folks online and watching the video, you're joining us as well. Joining us in a live stream, although this is not a live stream for you, but it is right here. Retiree is Me is a channel that I generated because I'm sort of evolving. I mean, I'm putting more focus into the car channels, but I left my job, my full-time corporate job, which I had been doing for lots of years. I had a full-time job while I was building these channels. I was working on these on the weekend, building channels and content. And now I no longer work that corporate space. So the only reason this matters is because I want to let you know that I actually have another video recording. I'm going to be sharing that on Retiree is Me, which actually this particular video is going to show sort of the background. I introduce a little bit of my workspace here and the recording studio. So it's a little bit of a different spin, but if you're interested, maybe you're interested in the idea of retirement, maybe you're a little older like myself. I'm by no means old, but getting up there like we all are. We all get a little older. So Retiree is Me is a channel. And hey, if you want to come by, watch some of the Retiree videos, that's great too. I'd appreciate it. And hey, if you'd care to subscribe, that would be amazing. Watch some of the videos that I do over there. It's very low key. It's very chill. It's more about, the thoughts, the feelings, and kind of how we all manage, aging, how we all manage retirement, and how we deal with that in our minds and our hearts. It's a lot different, but I don't want to get all mushy here. This is a car channel. I just want to introduce that idea. If you're interested, maybe give it a look. Retiree is Me. But anyway, moving on. What we have here, Laguna says, recently almost get hydrolocked in my Toyota Celica and the car inhaled water. Yes, that's not good. You want to pull the plugs, back it up, slowly crank it. Don't start it. Don't try to start it. Oil looked like milk. Luckily, after removing the plugs, there you go, and air intake, we got rid of most of the water and drove it home. How'd we get water in there? Maybe it's in there. Let me just see. What does it say? Oh, thank you very much, Ahmad L. Love the channel and content, bro. Salute. Hey, salute back, Ahmad. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate that. That's great. Thank you very much. And so Laguna Mechanic said, I was lucky it wasn't German car. Yeah, and a lot of German cars are, you don't have a lot of tolerance for, for these types of failures. You can blow an engine pretty quickly. So um, let's see. Laguna said, drop the oil and it seems fine for now. Any thoughts on resurrection of the Celica in 2025? I'd love to see it. I saw pictures and some preliminary discussions, and I think it's going to be a great looking vehicle. Back years ago, and I've talked to many people back in the day. I did work for a Toyota dealer many, many moons ago. I'm talking many moons ago, 30 years ago, something, I don't know. But I did work there. I drove an early generation Celica. I drove the two JZ Supras, and those were all amazing cars back in the day. So very, very cool. Yes, I'm looking forward to anything that brings sportiness and some fun, because, to the other channel here on Retiree is Me, clearly we're not so much into, as you get older, you start to see the value in driving things that are more cost effective, better value add, and not so expensive, because we all kind of struggle a little bit sometimes with, affordability, especially now. Let's see here. Sim says, I love my Lexus RZ. Depends if you're Canada, US, RZ, RZ. There you go. Deepak Murthy says, I live in Europe. Cars made in their motherland are more reliable. Hero German Benzes and BMWs are far more reliable than US made vehicles. That's kind of what I'm hearing too. I heard the same thing, that a lot of the motherland, when they build the vehicles, they tend to be more durable. And a lot of the technology generally doesn't fail too much, which, since we're talking about technology today, technology that's, high probability of failure isn't so much technology, but it's features. CVT transmissions, that's one of those features that could go bye-bye and I would never miss it. I think a lot of you would probably agree. CVTs, continuously variable transmissions, aren't all that inspiring. They're a little kind of blasé, but you know what? That's a technology that could go away. Bring the torque converter, bring the manual transmissions back. We love those types of gearboxes. CVTs, not as much. And let's just see here. Laguna, Leon Hart, sorry. I have a cold air intake. It came in through there. So how did it get there? Were you underwater? Oh, see, you hit a big puddle. Yeah, that's always, I used to do that when I was a kid. If I'd see a big puddle and I just race for it, the puddle's right next to the curb, and I'd splash it and try to hit a sign or something with the water. We used to get kicks and craps and giggles out of that back in the day when we were kind of young. But yeah, that's a risk. You get water up in the engine, and it is a huge risk potential there. And I know there's been lots of floods. We know there's big storms here on the East Coast here recently. So that's always a massive risk for sure. So yeah, hopefully that's better for you. Maybe go in there, give it a good cleaning on the intake. That'd be my advice, is to kind of get in there real good and clean that up. Ahmed, thoughts on a hybrid system in the new 992-2 generated Carrera GTS? Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it, and I would say Porsche, they're going to do something very similar to what I think we saw with Ferrari. And, with a little extra hybrid assist, Ferrari in a 296 and the SF90s, their idea of hybrid isn't economy. Same with the 911. They're not using it for economy. They're using it for performance. And so you look at these Ferraris, the 296, the SF90, and we even looked at the Trinities, right? I mean, Porsche, they learned a little something from the 918, although it's not going to be that extreme by any means. That's not the intent of it. But they're going to bring a little more performance, fill in the gaps on shifting, make it a little more economical, but really more of a boost in performance. And I truly welcome it. I don't think these hybrid systems are that much of a compromise anymore. I think, especially when you're doing it like Porsche is doing it or Ferrari is doing it, they're only giving you a weight penalty of, of an extra, I can't remember exactly what it is, maybe an extra 100 pounds, 120 pounds. I'd have to read up a little bit more on that, but there is a little bit of a weight penalty. You have a small battery pack, you have a little bit of a small motor, and that all adds a little bit extra complexity, a little bit extra weight, but not enough to matter. It actually offsets it drastically by, trimming out the gaps in the performance, better acceleration out of the hole. It just gives you better performance. I would absolutely buy that because, I've driven, and for those on the channels, both channels have seen me drive the 296 GTB Ferrari, and believe it when I say the hybrid in a performance car like a 911 or the Ferrari is nothing short of spectacular. It makes the driving experience so much better. And Porsche knows how to build a performance car and work out the bugs. And if there's one thing they do, they'll do it reliably. So absolutely, I think, Ahmed, I would say I would give that a strong look, and I wouldn't let that chase me away at all. I think it's just great. I mean, this whole new hybrid, I mean, pure EV is a different story. I mean, you're kind of getting away from, the raw emotion, the sound, the vibration. And I think those are some elements that a lot of the EVs just don't deliver on. But with the 911 and the Ferraris and these modern performance hybrids, McLaren, they're all doing it. Lamborghini, they're all incorporating electrification on an existing platform or reworking a platform to accommodate that electrified drivetrain. It just makes it so much better, makes it more powerful, makes it more interesting, but you don't lose the dynamics and the sound. It just makes it better. So I would say absolutely give it a look. Have you driven one, Ahmed? I'd be curious, or not driven one, sorry. Have you driven one of the others from the other manufacturers with hybrid drivetrains? Because I would say give those a look, give those a try, and it might give you a little bit of perspective on what the 911 hybrid systems are like. Let's just see. Ahmed says, thinking of moving on from my NA 991.1. So you're naturally aspirated, first generation of 991. And so, as you know, for those that don't know, the second generation of 991 actually came a 3-liter twin turbo, which wasn't a turbo. It was a Carrera S, but they were turbocharged. So for those that wanted the most diehard, the most the most authentic 911 driving experience, but the latest version of that was the 991 Generation 1. Ahmed, I would say that is a great car that you've got today. Yeah, that's a tough one to let go. I'd have to really drive it, I would say. But I would say from the perspective of holding value, I think you've got, it's not a unicorn because there's a lot of them around. But the 9911 it's going to be like the 964s and the 993s, and then eventually the 901s and the 915 generation, the older stuff, where eventually they become more sought after because they're the lats of the naturally aspirated. Same thing with Ferrari and the 458 Italias, right? I mean, the old 458 Italias, those are now going up in value. So I would say weigh it very cautiously, because I think I'm not here to project what the values look like on future 911 costs. I mean, we've seen them all over the map, but there's a potential, being it's the last naturally aspirated 911. So yeah, I would say something to think about. And maybe if you can do both, maybe that's a stretch. I don't know. Like for me, it'd be tough to put two 911s in the garage, but I guess I have to ask the question. Let's just see what else we have here. Nico Tuason said, I'm shopping for an SUV and have my eyes on the Audi Q3. Do you know if this is a reliable car? Not necessarily that reliable. I would say Audi and the VAG group product of lineups are not that dependable. They're not overly reliable. But you know what? It is what it is. If you're leasing it, if you're driving for a few years, it might be okay. But again, a lot of these derivatives of the E8 888 engines in a lot of these Volkswagen and Audi products are kind of risque. So it's fun. If you don't want to keep it for 10 years, go for it. If it's a 3-4 year vehicle, like a lot of people are driving nowadays, then it's not that bad. But if you do want to plan to keep it for a long period of time, I don't know. I think there might be better options. Um, Let me just see here. Ahmed says, thinking of moving on. Okay, you mentioned about moving on, but I noticed that somebody else had said, Luminary says, hold on to the last naturally aspirated 911 variants. They're holding value. And I would agree with that. I know it's nice to get into that new, fresh. It's the same question. Again, the Ferrari line, right? Do you trade in for, say, a 458 Speciale, which is a rare car? Would you upgrade that to an SF90? I mean, you're in similar dollar territory. Some people say, yeah, the new car is way faster, but then the older one is going up in value, and it's already bottomed up and it's skyrocketing. So, yeah, again, I would say from a dollar's perspective, yeah. So Ahmed, yeah, I got to hold on to it. So again, if you can own both, I think you're in a sweet spot. That's a lot to ask, and I know it's a lot. Mario, I like the performance electrification ads, but ultimately think performance should be achieved through lightness. Cars are getting really heavy, which makes them more efficient. Thanks, Mario. 100%. Great to hear from you again, Mario, and glad to see you. And hopefully you're off to a great long weekend. Well, it's not a long weekend. Great weekend here. I know you're also from Edmonton, so shout out. Mario, I agree. A lot of these older cars, and the older, that 9911 is of that older generation. Well, it's the latest and greatest. It's still kind of heavy car compared to the older 911s. Every generation just gets bigger, heavy, more powerful. And so the 9911 is a great keeper. So what do we have here? B-Man says, what do you think about Air Ride V-Shocks, Air Ride? Back to the conversation of the video in the first place is Air Ride suspension. Anybody over there have Air Ride suspension? Any of you guys? Well, the Air Ride suspension is, we had it in our Volkswagen, and we see it becomes problematic in any car it seems to land in. We had it in our X5. We see it at Mercedes. We see it in a lot of brands, Range Rovers. And eventually they all become problematic. There's air compressors, there's bags, there's hydraulic systems or pneumatic systems, sorry. There's all kinds of different systems and valves and relays, and it all becomes problematic. Again, everything's amazing when it's new, but that's my message would be, either A, it goes in a vehicle you don't plan to keep a long time, or B, if you're speccing a vehicle, like I know an X5, for example, you can get like the standard suspension. I would look at the standard setups if you can get it in that particular vehicle. Let's just see here. So any other performance, any other features or technology you guys don't like? I would say too many big displays, too many digital screens, and lacking the knobs and buttons. We all like knobs and buttons, and we all like to be able to kind of, just reach over and grab something without necessarily looking at a screen and trying to navigate. So I think that's a technology that it's nice to have some of that diagnostics, some of the fun tech that's buried in screens, but realistically, all your base functions should be accessible to by a push button. So start-stop feature, Night of Alemia, 100%. The most annoying is the start-stop feature. Now, a lot of the hybrid vehicles, it's all sort of incorporated, so it just zooms away, and it's a different kind of a setup. So if you're driving a hybrid, it's kind of not really all in the same. It just zooms away in hybrid mode anyhow, so it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, if you're driving an internal combustion vehicle, I would say the start-stop is, can be abrupt. It can be, a bit of rough, and it's not the greatest setup. So B-Man says, I love my hydraulic steering in my 128i. I would agree. Far too many vehicles these days now are going to electric steering, electric brakes, electric, everything. And I think you lose a lot of that feedback through the steering, through the brakes, through everything. And hydraulic systems like that, I think, are pretty important. Brakes and steering are wonderful when you get very, very old school. And so that's just kind of, I would agree with that. Devon427 Racing, at the end of the day, nothing beats an '07 Camry in terms of reliability and maintenance. Can you say? old school wins the race, right? That's a reliable workhorse, 100%. So yeah, so Bobby De Niro X says electric steering and diesel. Electric steering and diesel. Yeah, electric steering. Yeah, same thing as we just kind of mentioned. You sort of lose that sort of sensation and that feel. Um, Now, let's see here. We have Luminary saying, looking for a used premium car in Canada in the 20s or early 30s, but I don't want it to be highly unreliable. Premium car in the 20s and 30s. I don't want it highly unreliable. What would you recommend? I am seeing a 2020 A4, 2019 330, more expensive, some C classes. Of those ones you're looking at, personally, I'm away. I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't probably go with the Audi, especially the A4s again, unless you're going the upstream motors or the more upscale engines. I would say, yeah, probably the BMW for those generations. I would probably go with the BMW if we're being honest. That'd be a little bit more money, but that would be the most reliable. And I find the bodywork holds up a lot better, and BMW's technology feels like it's more sorted. I like the iDrive systems in the BMWs. It works pretty well. So yeah, Bobby De Niro X, BMW B58. So yeah, if you're talking 330 or something, sorry, B340 would have the B58. But if you're looking at a 3 Series, maybe look at a 2018. If you can stretch the budget a little bit, I know that's a bit more of a stretch, but that gets you to the B58, and that's the win in my personal opinion. Deepak Murthy says, so sad diesel engines are being condemned. Yeah, they are. And I like them. I was actually looking at some X5 diesels again recently. And I think 2018 is the last year that they made that. And it's great. You can get 1,100 kilometers, like 600-700 miles on a tank of fuel. And they got good performance and they're reliable, at least until they start failing on the emissions equipment. But yeah, they're great. How about the GLK 250 diesel? Absolutely. Some good ones there. Some of the original German diesel engines are pretty reliable. But back to even to the question there about looking at, the 20s and 30s, maybe look at the BMWs. 330, you're looking at the B48, which you're talking about, which is a decent engine because it's a derivative of the B58. They're modular engines. So yeah, definitely look at the 330. That would be a good option. And maybe a Lexus. Would you be looking at that as well? So yeah, like there's a lot of great choices here. I see Jai Singh as well is on the line. Thanks again, Jai, for joining in. I know we've talked a lot about some of these upscale engines by Audi and Volkswagen, and I've said this for quite a while, and I've mentioned this last couple gatherings here and there, Jai, as well, and that generally Audi and their base EA 888 is probably a little less durable. I know a lot of those engines are they tune them up for different outputs like the R and the different drivetrains in the different models. But it feels like some of the older school EA 888s, they are getting better. But the older ones were really problematic. Timing chains, oil leaks, O2 sensors, carbon fouling, a bunch of stuff like that. But they are getting better. They are certainly getting a lot better. But definitely always step up. And the V6s are better. The 2.5s are even, in my mind, one of the best, as are the 4 liters that you're going to find twin turbos in a lot of their upscale, more premium models. So Jai, A5 45 TFSI Quattro versus VW GTI, both 265 horsepower, but Audi has Quattro. Which is better to drive and hold more value? Again, I know Audi has buttons and knobs. Yeah, that's a great question. You know what? For me, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say I'd go probably with the A5 45 TFSI. That's where I'd probably go. The Volkswagen for, again, resale, The A5, it's a beautiful car, has much nicer interior, but again, it has more of that tech. It has a cleaner looking interior though. It has a nicer MMI system, and the Audis do look a lot prettier. The A5 probably be a good option with the 45 TSI. So we have Luminary again says, what about the 21 Mercedes A220s? They're quite cheap. Any known issues with these? Yeah, all these small Benzes, they're not horribly unreliable. The gearboxes have been a little bit of a problem with some of them, a little bit rough riding, and the suspension's a little unrefined, but they're fun. And for the price point, as you're seeing the A220s, you can't go too wrong. They're actually quite, I don't want to say reliable, because I think that's misleading, because any of these German vehicles have a risk. But let's just say it's far less risky than buying a used S-Class. Let's put it that way. So I would say they're not terrible. I would buy them. I like the A-Class. I think they're kind of a neat looking little vehicle. And because of their more simpler drivetrains, simpler interiors, simpler level of technology, I think they're worth a risk. I think they're a gamble, but they are definitely a gamble worth taking if the price is right and the service history is solid. Luminary, laugh aloud. So still less reliable than the 330. Geez, yeah, I would say yeah, you betcha. The 330 is still probably one of the most reliable right now in the luxury car segment, if I can say that. Next to Lexus. Lexus is still going to beat that. Nico Tucson says, is a 2020 X3 X-Drive 30i with 60K or 60,000 kilometers risky? I'm assuming you're saying kilometers, not miles. I would say not majorly risky. It's like anything, maintenance, watch out for those cooling system problems. And anybody online there, maybe any thoughts? Anybody driving any BMWs there? But what I'm finding is you're going to expect a pretty reliable vehicle for the most part. Again, there's no swearing. We can't read the future. As long as the maintenance is there and there's been no accident history from the chassis perspective, make sure it's clean that way. The engines and the drivetrains are solid on them. And like I said, the transmissions with the 8-speed ZF automatic is absolutely a workhorse. It's bulletproof. And that engine's pretty good too. So like I said, just watch out for history, maintenance, service history on that. And 60,000 kilometers is good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You could probably expect to get up to, realistically, anywhere from 120 to 160,000 kilometers without having any serious issues. Where you're starting to have some of the cooling lines and the thermostats and those kind of problems, you're going to start seeing that, at that 120,000, 150,000 kilometer range typically is where you'll find that. But those aren't major typical issues. It's just they can be costly, but they're not serious. Ahmad, so you say, speaking of Lexus, why do you think about the LC500 wasn't more popular? They had a rapid depreciation, I believe. I think it's speaking to the wrong. I'll just kind of say it. I think most people buying Lexus products are buying a product that is Toyota, fundamentally Toyota, but upscale. So they get the leather, the sunroof, the big, the glass top and all those things. So you're generally, and I know there are one-offs, RC 500, the IS 500, there are those one-offs. And of course, their legendary supercar, there are one-offs. But in terms of volumes, bigger volume number cars, they just wouldn't be that. They're a wonderful car, they're reliable, but it's the wrong client in my mind. It's people who are buying Lexus vehicles are looking for an SUV that's reliable, has the luxury amenities, but are usually value more reliability and comfort than they do performance. And the LC500 is sort of a nice blend, but it's leaning more on the performance side. And quite frankly, it's less practical anyway with the two-door, two seats. it just speaks to a much more tighter niche clientele. And I think, remember, who you selling that to? A two-door, two-seated sports car. You've got some strong competition. Remember, you've got the GT series from Mercedes. That's a popular model. The Jag F-Type, popular model, maybe a little less, and the Porsche 911. That's some strong competition. So it had a lot. It had a big uphill ride there. It was a tough one. Bobby Denim X, De Niro X, sorry, says maybe stick B58 and an LC500. I think the engine in the LC500 is actually quite good. But yeah, I just think that vehicles just miss the mark with the clientele. There's always people buying them. They're wonderful. They sound great. They go good. But yeah, I just don't think they kind of met the space. I think they just sort of, that wasn't the what people were looking for being kind of, in my opinion. That's my opinion. See, what else do we have here? F-Type so underrated, Luminary says. I drove one and was so epic. The F-Type and the F-Type R and the SVR are epic cars. They really are. They're supercars without saying, exotic or supercar. They are amazing. They truly are. Yeah, and it's immediate depreciation I'm talking about, Luminary. So, yeah, and I think that's the issue. But, the F-Types depreciate like they're falling off a cliff. And, the LC500s didn't hold value that well either. So, 911s are the best place. If you're going to step into that six-figure territory, you're probably better off buying a 911, even a Carrera. It's going to hold better value. And retention-wise, they traditionally have. Deepak Murthy says, so sad here in Europe. Lexus isn't a popular premium brand on par with Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. And Luminary, is the new M5 a disgrace, or would it sell well? The M5 is an amazing car. The competition, and I heard they did something with an oil control ring. I came across some information recently that the oil control ring is not an effective means to control the oil. It's prone to failure and scratching the walls and, of course, scoring the cylinders. And so I think there's a risk in owning that car. They're absolutely phenomenal to drive, but there's a risk. Yeah, so, I guess what I'll say is technology, all these cars are great. They all have a lot of technology. Run flats are another annoying one. Not that great. Everybody knows run flats are not that great. Neither are stop start. There's some of that technology that we can all do without, lacking knobs and buttons. Those kind of things we all like to have, those things in our, have that tactile feel. And if you don't have it, it's not that great. So I'm not the biggest fan for sure of, a lot of integration of technology. I like to keep it kind of old school too. And I like pulling gears. I like manual gearboxes, and I like tried and true performance cars. But at the end of the day, I mean, everything, there's different strokes for different folks. And according to Laguna here, Leonhardt said, that being said, Mark, has the novelty worn off driving the F-Type for you yet? Do you think it will? Well, I'm gonna expose this. So I'm just gonna say this right now. And there's lots probably watching online here, and I haven't really formally done the bye-bye, but indeed, I sold the F-Type this year. The F-Type R is sold. Yes, Laguna, yes. And really, not for lack of it not being amazing. It's amazing in so many ways. The F-Type has the sound, the drive, the performance, all of that. So yes, it has been sold. It went to a great new owner here in the same city that is going to love it with everything. And yes, I hate to kind of present that, but this is what it is. We will be likely looking at something very, Very interesting. Um, yes, so Bobby De Niro X. F-Type's nice, man. What's next on the menu? Um, it, well, as you know, I'm retired, so I've been keeping down low. I did order something, so I'm just going to kind of spill a little bit of this here. I did actually order something when I was gainfully employed by, you know, Uncle Corporate. I did order something, and it's been in the works for a while. I'll just say that. So there is something. There is something else coming, and I can't spill the beans yet. Um, it is pretty extraordinary, is what I'll say, and I just wanted to put that out there because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just what it is, right? Saxon of Riverstone, I love my F-Pace, and you should. They're great cars or SUVs. Mario, what I didn't like about tech of LED lights is the expensive to replace when they fail. Yeah, absolutely. $5, $6, $7,000 for a headlight if you damage it. They're so expensive now, this technology. There's so much tech built into these headlights now that they're absolutely ridiculous. Nico, a GT3. A 911 for sure. Luminary says a 911 for sure. Oh, there's some. It's going to be an interesting one, and this is going to go on for a while. And I can't spill the beans yet, but Luminary, if he gets a GT3, that'll be crazy. Well, you're definitely going to have to wait and see. You can debate. Things are very, very crazy indeed, and they are. Hey, Mac, how you doing? Hey, Mark, I saw a BMW M3 E30 driving home today. Wonder what you think of a car like that compared to the newer, more technologically advanced M3s of today. Mac, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. The older M3 high-strung, naturally aspirated four-cylinder, if you can get one, they're worth a fortune now. Mac, I would much rather have that than many other cars today, because everything else kind of depreciates. And to me, those older, if this is a true M3, an E30 M3, a true, then that car has got some serious value to it. And I'm actually surprised that this guy's driving it around, or lady, or whoever it is. That is an awesome, awesome car. I would definitely keep it. Laguna says that left DRL on the F-Type is known for failing too. Yeah, they are, and the LEDs get a little flickery and they get dim sometimes. I didn't have any problems with mine, but my F-Type was amazing. Like I loved it, and I don't think there's a better car and I still stand by that. I don't think there's a better car in that price range. At least buying them slightly used. Bobby De Niro X Ionic 5N or a Taycan. Wait, if he pulls up in plaid, that will be the biggest plot twist. Luminary. It might be a bit of a plot twist. Those that know. And there's a very, very, very small couple of people that know what's next in line. And I will be sharing that. But again, I have to reiterate, as you know, as being in retirement, I have actually ordered this car before, and that's why it's been ordered. It's the place and ordered, and there's a long wait time. So at the end of the day, it's coming. You can't stop the train, and that's just kind of where we're at. Laguna says he said there's no better car in that price range, meaning has buying something more expensive. I'm gonna have to leave that. Love to keep the guesses coming. Laguna, he had it for 4 years. I absolutely did. Yes, I had it I bought it I bought it actually in COVID. COVID just rolled in, and it was March, I think it was February, March is when I bought the car. So I've had it for 4 years. And if it weren't for this other car, I'd still have it. There's no doubt about it. Because it's the old school V8. It does everything so well. It's just, when I see one drive by, it still excites me. So it's a great car. Bobby De Niro X, got the laughs on that. Absolutely. Spill the beans, bro. I can't. It's going to have to wait. Luminary 911 GTS is my prediction, 992-2. I found you through F-type content, man. End of an era, Laguna. That's okay. You know what? I can still tell and share everything about the F-types because I knew that car in and out, and I'm still going to say, I truly believe that's the car that you should buy. That if anybody's shopping for a great sports car, I think it's still better than anything else in that price range. Can you tell us which country your new car is from? Oh, Luminary. He is from Calgary, I think. Well, I'll tell you what. I can't tell you what country it's from because I think that's a big giveaway. What I can say is the local dealership network in this province only sells them in Calgary. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. I'll let you kind of ponder that one around a little bit, and everybody online there, give it some thought. But anyway, you know what? Technology is great when it works. When it fails, it's just no point. Ahmed says, is there a horse on the logo? Laugh out loud. It's an Aston. Laugh out loud. Some great, amazing guesses. I just wanted to say hello. Hi, Island Dawn. Great to see you here. I see your comments all the time on my videos. Thanks, Dawn. I appreciate to see it. 911 variant for some man. Okay, so we're going to have to cut it quick. I thank you so much, everybody, for joining in today on the live stream. Some amazing questions, some great commentary, and I appreciate everybody's response here. Saxon of Riverstone, Alpha. Have a good one, Luminary. Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And thank you, everybody over there, too, for sticking around and watching the entire background scenes and how this works. And I thank everybody for this. So I really appreciate it. You all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all really, really soon. Thanks again, everybody. Over and out. Bye-bye. And that is everything, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's sort of the background. And as you can see, there's, still comments that come in, lots of comments. People get pretty excited, and it's awesome right there. And it's so rewarding. As you can see, I don't get bored. I just don't get bored. So I do this, I go for a walk, I have a coffee, come back, do more of this, and it just never gets old. So we all just have to find something that motivates us, something that drives us. But at the end of the day, thanks again, everybody, for joining in. I know it's been a long hour. There's probably not a lot of you left sitting here watching, but I hope you learned something, a little bit more about me, a little bit more about what I do and how I'm able to actually, kind of make a goal of it. Remember, pension's part of it, investments are part of it. But if you can do a little side hustle to get you between, early retirement and actual retirement, where you're starting to draw, Social Security, pensions, investments. I mean, you need a gap filler, maybe a part-time job, whatever that looks like. It's going to be something that everybody has their own path. This happens to be my path, and I just wanted to share what some of the experience looks like. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.